you want to know where your application is at, you have three options. The first option you have is to call CIC. They have a direct phone number on their website that you can call to find out about your application. Hey guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new, you're beautifully welcome. Please take a seat, grab some drink and some snack. Hit the subscribe button down below and be sure to turn the post notification bell on as well, so that you can get notification each time I post a new video. And if you're not new, you know what to do. Make sure you leave this video a thumbs up, comment down below and share this video with your friend. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please make sure you consider subscribing right away. Just in case you're yet to see the previous video on how to create your Express Entry profile, how to improve your CRS score, and all of that videos that I've done from the part 1 to part 5 before this very final part, I'll link them up here and in the description box so that you can check them out. And this is going to be the final part of this video. So what are we going to be talking about today? I'll be addressing the rare cases with your application and what goes on after your Express Entry application, that's post-AOR. So the first thing you need to know is that once you submit your Express Entry application, you'll be getting an email which would acknowledge the receipt of your application, and it's called AOR, Acknowledgement of Receipt. That date you receive that letter is the date that would be your AOR date. And so what happens after your AOR date? So after a couple of weeks after you have submitted your application and you have gotten an acknowledgement that your application was successfully received, you would be getting a medical examination passed or biometrics instruction letter. Most times it takes about 3 to 4 weeks. In some cases it varies up to 6 weeks as well. You would be getting a notification in your email that there's a message in your profile. Once you sign in, you will see that, okay, if you pass your medical examination, you see that your medical examination is passed, and within the next 24 to 48 hours, you would get your biometrics instruction letter. So this letter is going to have you go to the nearest VAC center to get your biometrics done. Biometrics is basically your fingerprints and all of that stuff. So after your AOR date, you get your medical examination passed, you get your biometric instruction letter as well, then the wait continues. So in some cases you could be getting additional documents requested, which we usually call ADR. ADR is when maybe CIC requests for more documents from you regarding your application. I got some one ADR for my education credentials. I think I uploaded the wrong document, which I was just so lucky. You might be getting an ADR to provide a document that is probably not clear, or maybe a document that you have missed out in your application, or maybe a document that or maybe a supporting document to the one you have previously submitted. You get a notification in your email and you would sign into your account, you see the documents requested, you upload it, and that would be it. Another thing that goes on after you submit your application is ghost updates. People make a big deal about ghost updates. It's not really a big deal, but it's actually a step in the right direction that lets you know that your application is actually being worked on. So when you get the ghost update, it could come in 2 ways. First thing is you could get an email notification that there's an update in your profile, and when you sign in, you don't see any update, you don't see any changes. Another thing you could see is once you sign into your profile, you could see profile updated. You would not get an email notification. You could just sign into your account randomly and you see profile updated or account application updated, but you would not see any changes in your application. That's either of both. Those are the category of ghost updates you could get. There is also a particular stage called IP1 and IP2, which I don't really think people should care about. But IP2 means when your application changes from not after you submit an ADR, you could see that your application or the ADR now says not applicable. That's for IP2. It's not really necessary per se. I wouldn't say you should continue to track your application, but it's good for you to know the progress, but don't continue to dwell on it. I can understand, because it's like a long-time commitment. You want to know the progress of your application, and you definitely want to take an action. You want to know what's going on, so you probably continue to keep track and keep track. It's very hard not to continue to sign into your profile when you have something going on. But I'll still suggest to you that you should not worry so much about each of these stages. Just when you are required to provide a document, just go ahead and provide it. So another very important thing I need to mention here is raising a CSE. So raising a CSE is very important when you probably missed out a document when you were submitting your application. You identify this yourself before CIC requested from you. You see that, okay, for instance, you missed uploading your spouse police clearance certificate, or you were able to see that you have probably selected the wrong NOC code, then you may want to update your application with some information. So anytime you just think you need to update your application with something, you can raise a CSE. I'll put a link on how to raise a CSE in the description box, and you can go ahead to do it on the Canadian Immigration website. Another very important thing is following up with your application. So once you submit your application, maybe the standard processing timeline is 6 months, but before 6 months, of course, you want to know where your application is at. You have 3 options. The first option you have is to call CIC. They have a direct phone number on their website that you can call to find out about your application progress. You would provide them with your application number and some other personal information just to verify they are speaking with the right person, and they can give you more information on your application. The other way for you to verify is by sending an email. It takes about 7 business days for them to respond, but you will definitely get a response about your application. The third way for you to track your application is by ordering GCMS Notes. So what is GCMS Notes, and should you order GCMS Note? Why should you order GCMS Note? This is like lots of questions that is usually pondering on people's mind once they submit the application. So GCMS Note just means Global Case Management System. It's just like a process that has been, or a system that has been set up by CIC that allows you to track your application for permanent residency, visitors visa, citizenship, and all of the application with the immigration people. It allows you to track where your application is at. So basically, GCMS Notes would allow you to see the progress of your application. It will allow you to identify if there is an error, or maybe identify a red flag that is in your application, and you can take corrective actions before it begins to affect your application, or before your application actually gets affected. So when should you order GCMS Note? Most people usually recommend that you should order your GCMS Note after you pass the R10 stage, which is when your document is successfully complete. So the R10 stage is mostly after you get your medical examination passed. You can order your GCMS Note after then. But I personally would suggest that you probably wait till like 3 months or 2 months time before you order your GCMS Notes. So now, how do you order your GCMS Notes? You can order it if you are a permanent resident in Canada, or you are a citizen in Canada. But obviously, if you are applying for the express entry application, it means you are not. So you can get a friend or a family member to raise GCMS Note for you from within Canada, or you can get a third party to order GCMS Note for you. So there are like a couple of websites that you can order GCMS Note from. I'll put some of the links in the description box, but one of the most popular one is getgcms.com. Another thing you need to note is that ordering your GCMS could take between 30 to 45 days to arrive. So you may also need to get someone, maybe a lawyer or someone that is more professional or more knowledgeable to assist you with reading your GCMS Note. But if you have like some background knowledge, you can go through your GCMS Note by yourself and see what it means, and understand if you need to provide some documents or whatever to resolve the issue that is going on with your application, if any. I've seen several cases where some people's application could have been denied if they did not order the GCMS Note in the right time. So ordering GCMS Note could be very, very, very important for your application. I didn't have to because my application was processed really, really fast, but you may want to raise a GCMS Note after you have submitted your application. One thing I want to mention is about proof of funds. So if you're applying for express entry, don't forget that if you don't have enough funds and you are getting like a huge sum of money into your account, you don't want the immigration officer to raise a brow at your application, so you may want to provide a gift deed. Another thing is you can use treasury certificate, money market fund, and all of that kind of monetary investment that are easily convertible into cash as your proof of fund for your application. You can also do a gift deed, and if you have pension funds, I don't know how it works in other countries, but for Nigeria, if you have pension funds, you have access to 25% of your funds 4 months after you are unemployed. So you can also use 25% of your pension funds as your proof of fund. In this case, just know that you cannot use pension fund wholly as your proof of fund. You can only use it to buffer the proof of fund that you have originally provided. Some of the rare cases that I would be addressing, I think I have a couple of them, but I'll just mention them one after the other. If you are a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're a pharmacist, or you're a lawyer, you will have to evaluate your credentials differently. I might have to do a separate video on how to evaluate your credentials if you are currently in any of those 4 professions. But in the meantime, I'll also try to put the link in the description box so that you can check them out. Another very important thing I would need to mention here, which is a rare case, is if you are adopting a child and you want to include them in your application. So if you have adopted a child, or you have a child living with you that you want to include in your application, you have to formally adopt that child and include the adoption papers in your application to show that this child is not really mine, but I've legally adopted this child. And legal adoption, you might have to use a lawyer, or you can go to the court in your country just to understand the process and how you can go about getting a legal adoption for a child you want to include in your application that is not yours. Another very important scenario could be if you are applying for express entry as a single parent, or a single mom, or a single dad. If you want to include your child as a single parent in your application, you have to get full custody of that child. And how do you get full custody? You have to go to the court, have your other partner or your spouse, the father of that child or the mother of that child, whichever the case may be, to allow you to have full custody of that child. Then that way you can include that child in the application. You also have to get a consent letter from that person signing and agreeing that you are going to include that child in your PR application, and the child will be traveling to, and the child will be traveling with you to Canada. Another very rare scenario could be if you were previously married, maybe you are divorced or you are legally separated. So what's the difference between being divorced and being legally separated? If you have completed your divorce process, then you are now divorced. But if you are still in the process, or you are no longer living with your partner, then it could be categorized as legally separated. So what do you need to prove that you are divorced? You just need to include your divorce paper in your application, because it's different from saying you are single. Being single means you have never been married. So what documents do you need to provide if you are legally separated? You can provide a separation agreement signed by both parties and legally notarized as well. You can also provide documents to show previous filing for divorce. That if you have any, you can also include that as well. You can also include a signed and notarized consent letter from your partner or between both parties saying that you are legally divorced, or you are currently going through your divorce process, and you are no longer together as a couple, and this allows you to apply for your PR with your child. Another document you may need to provide is a letter of explanation explaining the entire situation, maybe just to provide more information that you are currently undergoing your divorce process. It's taking a long time because you were married in 2 different countries, or blah 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 blah, just whatever story you want to include in your letter of explanation, just to buttress the fact that you are still going through your divorce process but you are legally separated. Another very rare scenario you could have is if you get an interview request for your express entry application. So some people would get interview requests, not everybody, but a couple of people could get interview requests. Now, when could that happen? Maybe when you add your spouse after you have gotten your AOR, or after you have gotten your PPR, just to prove that yes, you guys were really in a relationship, or you are not trying to do an arranged marriage just to bring that person to Canada. Then you might have to, maybe you could get an interview request. Some other people could get interview requests when maybe their work experience is like a family business, and they just need to provide more information to see that yes, you actually did this work that you claim that you had work experience for. Another rare case you could get is if you are into like same-sex relationships and you are in a country that it's legally not allowed. I've seen a particular very, very popular lesbian couples from Nigeria that came to Canada as a common law partner. So if you are also on that common law, so if you also have a common law partner, you could also get an interview request. But not to matter, anybody can actually get an interview request. But these are just some of the rare cases that you could get an interview request. So what do you do when you get an interview request? Of course, they would let you know where they want to interview you and when you have to be there. Go to the location, carry as much document as you can to prove what exactly they'll be asking you. Get prepared, know the right answer to the question, provide more than, get more than enough documents, because your fate will be decided on that spot. So that will be all you need to know for interview requests. Another very rare case is if you want to get married after you have submitted your application or after you have gotten your PPR, that's your permanent residency. After your post-AOR and you want to include your spouse after the application, firstly, your CRS score would not be recalculated again, so you would have to just raise a CSC, provide documents that you are legally married, and just to show, you have to make sure that you only got married after your AOR date. Then you have to provide your legal marriage document, you have to provide your spouse medicals, you have to provide additional proof of fund. You may also need to add like marriage pictures or like evidence that you guys were in a relationship before the AOR date. Another very important category is maybe you get married after you get your PPR, then you want to add your spouse after this date. You don't want to wait until you get to Canada before you can file for them. What you can also do in this case is to raise a CSC as well, provide the document saying you are married and all other information that would be necessary or that would convince the visa officer that indeed these people were in a relationship. You could get an interview request and you may not get an interview request. Whichever the case may be, you can still add your spouse after your PPR. So just in case you don't know, PPR means passport request. That is when CIC requests that you should submit your passport, and that is when you know your application is approved. So the PPR stage is the final and very, very final stage of your application, except you have to like add a spouse after your PPR. So PPR means passport request, where you have to send your passport to CIC to get your visa stamp, and yeah, at this point in time, you know, yeah, except your village people are on your case. Then once you send your passport, the very final thing is for you to get a confirmation of permanent residency. Your passport will be sent back to you with your COPR that yes, you have been confirmed as a permanent resident of Canada, which you would not sign until you get to the port of entry. Another very rare scenario that could arise is if you were paid in cash. So if you had work experience but you were paid in cash, you may like to provide other supporting documents because you probably don't have like a salary account that you can submit. You may like to get a work experience letter, so you may like to get a work reference letter from your previous employer. You may need to get like your pay stub. You may need to get like every other document just to support that yes, you were actually employed and you were paid in cash. So also for people that are unable to get reference letter from their previous employer, just in case maybe your previous employer has run out of business or they are no longer in the country or maybe they died or something, any situation that could happen, but you are unable to get a reference letter from your previous employer, what do you use to prove to CIC that yes, you actually have this work experience? Firstly, you might need to provide your pay stubs if you have. In Nigeria, I think we call it pay slips. You can also provide your tax form W3 or W2 or your tax clearance certificate or other tax form that you have in your country. I don't know whichever country you are. The tax form that you shows that you actually were charged tax during that period when you were working. Another document you could provide is an offer letter that says that you were offered an employment in that company. Another document you could also provide is like your salary account. So just get your account statement from your bank. Make sure you get it from your bank. It is very, very important. I don't think I mentioned this in my previous videos, but you should know that when you are providing your proof of fund, it has to be from the bank. Don't go to the bank website to download it. Go into the bank, ensure the financial institution provides you your account statement signed and stamped in CIC format. It has to show that you are free of any debt. If you have credit card account, you have to include your credit card statement as well. It has to state that you're free of every debt. I think I should do like a format. I'll put it in the screen to show what CIC look out for, your bank reference letter and your bank statement. So yeah, there's nothing. I'm trying to think of what else I need to mention in this video, but as of now there's really nothing. If I can think of any, I'll include it while I'm editing the videos or I'll mention it in subsequent videos. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for me, don't forget to leave them in the comment section and I'm more than happy to respond to you. And if you have not seen the previous videos, I'll link them in the comment section as well. If you have other video ideas or suggestions you would like for me to consider doing, you can leave them in the comment section as well. Just to announce to you guys, I have good news. So in the next couple of months, I have some free time in my hands and I will be publishing 2 videos per week. So expect videos from me by every Wednesdays, and on Sundays I will try as much as I can to publish videos on those days, Wednesdays and Sundays, between 6 p.m. anytime from 6 p.m. Nigerian time and 12 p.m. Eastern time till our time zone changes again. So you should expect videos from me. That'll be all for this video. I don't have anything else for now. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoy watching this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have learned something, please also give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to share to your friends. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to do so, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Make sure you stay confident. Bye bye.